This conference will now be recorded.
Adhyay Paryandam Vande Guru Parambaram. Ragadirogan Satatanushaktan Asheshakaya Prasrutan Asheshan Aulsukya Moharadidan Jakhana Yopurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. So we start today with the shlokam. Doshadinam Yathaswamja Vidyad Vruddhikshayau Bhishak Kshayena Viparidhanam Gunanam Vardhanena cha. Those two lines we explained in our last session. Doshadinam Yathaswamja Vidyad Vruddhikshayau Vruddhikshayau Vidyad Viparidhanam Gunanam Kshayena Vruddhim Viparidhanam Gunanam Vardhanena Kshayam cha. So that is one statement which is based on the concept of some Samanya Vishesham only. Nothing special about it. As far as doshas and dhadus are concerned, the they don't have a normal or natural way of visarjanam. Dosha visarjanam or dhadu visarjanam is not a normal procedure. But as far as malas are concerned, it is not like that. They have a normal pattern of mala visarjanam. So as an additional point, the author highlights in the next line, Vruddhim malanam sangat cha kshayam cha adivisargataha. Doshadinam yathaswamja vidyad vruddhikshayau bhisha kshayena viparidhanam gunanam vardhanena cha. That is a general rule which is more based on guna. So you have to understand the gunas. So it is based on a style of understanding the body in terms of gunas, because a big list of gunas are further grouped into many categories or combinations to represent the different doshas and dhadus, malas as well. So when there is a vruddhi of a particular dosha in sharira, that reflects in the form of samana guna vruddhi. Samana guna vruddhi obviously presents as a vishishta guna kshaya. So that is based on samanya vishesha siddhanta. Regarding the malas are a special category of substances. They have got the tendency to make the system malinikaranad. At the same time, they deliver some specific karma as well or dharma as well in the context of prakriti. I mean the samavastha. And these malas can be accommodated within the system for a certain period of time in a certain quantity, so that they are beneficial to the body. But when they go beyond that time limit and quantity limit, they start creating problems, dushti. And when they uh, do not maintain their presence in terms of time and quantity, of course quality is another issue. Here we discuss about the time and the quantity, then also it is a problem. It start creating issues. So here, based on that, a tool is suggested. Of course it is not a very objective tool, if it is very much or completely subjective again, based on the understanding of the assessor. Malanam vruddhim sangad cha vidyad. Similarly, अधिविसर्गतः malaनां क्षयं च विद्यात्. संगाद malaनां वृद्धिं. Sangad cha. The cha, chakaram here means the above mentioned rule in terms of gunas can also be applied in this case of malas. Apart from that, this also can be a tool, that is malanam sangad vruddhim vidyad. When there is a sangha, sangam is accumulation, and from that sangam malanam vruddhim vidyad, we may assume a malavruddhi. Adivisargatah cha kshayam. Adivisargatah, visargam is its pravritti, excretion. Adivisargatah, by the excessive excretion, malanam kshayam cha vidyad, it may be assumed that there is a malakshaya. So this is a statement which is in tune with the common sense. But sometimes there is a, we may tend to think otherwise. That is a problem, because generally malam is uh, understood or perceived from the quantity which is excreted. So when there is excessive secretion, we may tend to say that there is malavruddhi. Similarly, when there is very less excretion, we may think that there is malakshaya. That is why it is specified here. Interestingly, I think at one point, somewhere else in the chapter, the author creates some sort of a gray zone, a lack of clarity in this idea in his own explanations, where the commentators literally sweat to find a logical explanation for that particular area, which we will come later, and then I can remind it. See, this is the point which we were mentioning earlier. But here it is quite logical, quite practical as well. So when there is sangam, that is an indication of mala vruddhi. When there is Adi Visargam, that is an indication of Malakshaya. But there are some other possibilities as well that also should be taken into consideration in while discussing the status of malas. Here only two possibilities are considered. Number one, mala is formed properly, but there is sangam. Second, mala is formed properly and there is adi visargam. So even though the activity highlighted is of two types, that means sangam or adi visargam, the other part is common. That means mala is formed properly or normally. But what is the case when that aspect is compromised or deviated from the normal? That is also a clinically relevant question. That means mala is formed in excess. Mala is formed in excess, then the rest of the things can be of two types. Mala is formed in excess and excreted in the usual way. So from the quantity which is excreted, which is normal as far as the individual is concerned, we may not be able to assume that there is mala sangam inside. This is not the quantity of mala which is actually produced. That is a clinically significant point. That happens. Similarly, sometimes the mala may be formed in excess and excreted less. Again, a third possibility, mala is formed in excess and excreted in excess. The same is the possibility with the mala is formed less. Then obviously there is no chance of excreted excess or excreted normal. Then in that case, the excretion also will be less. So there is a less quantity of mala pravritti. So that cannot be assumed as a mala sangam inside, just by seeing that very less quantity is excreted. So these sort of possibilities which are not directly explained here, when considered, may make the total description a little bit elaborate and inclusive. Clinically, they are all relevant. Then you will have to interpret based on the merit of the situation. Anyway, this general principle is Malanam Sangad cha Vruddhim Vidyad, Malanam Adi Visargataha cha Kshayam Vidyad. Hope it is clear. Then comes Malojitatvad Dehasya Kshayo Vruddhestu Pidanaha. Malojitatvad Dehasya Kshayo Vruddhestu Pidanaha. Pidanaha Pidakaraha. Causing pida. Pidanaha Pidakaraha. Causing pida. Pida, suffering, need not be pain as such. It is a suffering. So what is the content? Dehasya malojitatvad. Dehasya malojitatvad. Vruddhehe kshayaha pidanaha. What is it? Kshayam is pidakaram. Vruddhi is also pidakaram. But there, when compared, kshayaha pidakara taraha. Comparatively, kshaya is pidakara taraha. Relatively or comparatively more stressful or difficult. Why? Sharira has got a nature. What is that? it has got malojitatva, mala ujitatva. Ujitam means satmya, something which is uh, familiar for long time, sometimes even from the time of birth. And because of that familiarity, even if it is a bad trait, there is some sort of a sukhanubandhitva. We are comfortable with it. There is a sukhanubandhitva. That is known as ujitatva, which is a type of satmyatva. So shariram is mala satmya. From the birth or even before that itself, there is various sorts of mala formed and um, excreted through the srotas, malavahini srotas, from the very beginning of life, from the very beginning of birth itself. So sharira is having a mala satmyata, and because of mala satmyata, sharira may be able to accommodate some degree of vriddhi. Vriddhi is mala sangam, accumulation. But akshayam, adhivisargam, is very difficult for the sharira to tolerate. So kshayaha vruddhehe tu pidanaha, pidakara taraha. That is again a clinically relevant information or observation. Now we move forward. We have dosha, dhadu, mala, and we have seen them from different perspectives of vriddhi and kshaya along with this samyavastha. Now, dosha, dhadu, mala moolam sada dehasya. So how do they reside together in the body? That is a jitnasa. That is a jitnasa of the student. So understanding this jitnasa, the author explains a relation existing between these principles, dosha, dhadu, and mala. How is that? Keeping doshas in one side and dhadu and malas on the other. Keeping doshas on one side and dhadu and mala on the other side. And of course, why such a classification? It is evident because doshas are a group of dravyas which are having swadandra doshagatva. But in the presence of nimitta karanas, they can go to the stage of dushti on their own. Whereas dhadu and mala are not supposed to go to the stage of that dushti themselves, even if there is presence of nimitta karanas. They can go to the stage of dushti only when afflicted or influenced by pre-dushta doshas. Only when there is dushta doshas, then only they can cause dushti of dhadu and mala. So that is why they are grouped into two. But at the same time, they are components of a system in which every component is important. They are components of a system in which everyone is important. In Prakriti, there is no conflicting interaction between doshas and dhadumalas. Dhadumalas are together known as doshyas. There is no conflicting interaction. Instead, they go through a complementary to one another basis of interaction. They complement each other. And doshas by default are considered as ati sukshma dravyas. Ati sukshma dravyas. Dhadus and malas are relatively gross in their physical presence. Doshas are ati sukshma. Because of that ati sukshma nature of the doshas, one cannot expect to experience them by mere visual presence. They can be experienced by their karma, not by pratyaksha. Karma bhistu anumiyande doshas. They need not yield to the test of pratyaksha pariksha. As far as dhadu and mala are concerned, dhadu is having certain limitations that way, which we have already discussed. But malas are, even though we find certain things like malanam adisukshmanam durlakshyam lakshayet shayam. So adisukshma is one word used to indicate the grossness or otherwise the subtleness of certain malas. But still, we should say that they are grosser than the doshas, tridoshas. So those who are having comparatively grosser existence are considered as one group, and they are known as ashraya. They are known as ashraya. Ashraya is a site of shelter, a place which can be depended upon for manifesting in the form of karma. So, in this coming context, the author is trying to look into the pattern which leads to the coexistence of dosha on one side and dhadumala on the other. Some of them are grosser and some of them are very subtle, but still they coexist and complement one another to facilitate the existence of sharira, sachetana sharira. And now the sloga tells us tatra asthani sthido vayu pittam tu sweda raktayo shleshma shesheshu. Tatra asthani sthito vayuh pittam tu sweda rektayoh shleshma shesheshu. So this is one observation. One observation which is original to Ayurveda, wherein this sort of a relation is proposed between doshas and dhadumalas. Accordingly, it is proposed that vayuhu tatra vayuhu asthani sthitaha. Tatra vayuhu asthani sthitaha. Sthitaha, something which has taken seat of. Vayuhu, the dosha called Vayu, asthani sthitaha bhavati. Asthani in asti. Asthani sthitaha. Sthitaha, something which has taken that seat. Tatra asthani sthitaha vayuhu. Pittam tu sweda rektayoho sthitam. Sweda rektayoho sthitam. Which one? Pittam. Pittam sweda rektayoho sthitam. So pitta lives in basically the sweda and rekta, one mala and one dhatu. Sweda and rekta are the seeds of pittam. Shleshma shesheshu. So now up to this we have asti, then rektam, then swedam. There are many more things. Rasam you have to focus. Rektam comes. Mamsam. Shleshma. Rasam. That's why so it is shleshma. Then medas shleshma. Asti vayu. Majja shleshma. Shukram shleshma. So practically shleshma has a very dominant role. Pitta somewhere in between, and Vayu is a bit adamant. Asthanisthitaha, not ready to move on to any other place or location. Tatra asthanisthito Vayuhu pittam tu sweda rektayoho shleshma shesheshu. Then I hope that idea is clear. Then continues. How does it continue? Tena esham ashrayinam mithaha yadegasya tadanyasya vardhanakshapanaushatham. Tena esham ashrayinam mithaha yad egasya tad anyasya vardhanakshapanaushatham. Yad egasya tad anyasya vardhanakshapanaushatham. So here the author is trying to connect these principles in a more guna based strategy. It is a continuation of that Doshadinam yadhasvam ja vidyadu vruddhikshayo bhishak. Then we told this is based on the Samanya Vishesha Siddhanta. Here, it finds its application in a different plane. Tatra asthani sthitaha vayuhu. Vayuhu asthani sthitaha. Vayu finds its seat in asthi. Pitta finds its seat in Sweda and Rekta. Shleshma Shesheshu Sthitaha. In all the rest of the dhadus and malas, Shleshma is residing or can be expected to be seen. And because of this relation between the doshas and dhadu malas, Esham ashrayinam mithaha, Esham ashrayinam, ashrayi is the designation given to these two sets of dravyas. First one, dosha. Second one was of dushya or dhadu and mala. So here ashrayinam, the first one is known as ashraya. Second set members are known as ashrayi. So doshas are that order is a bit reversed. The doshas are the asthi, that dushya and malas. That is how it is explained. Asthini sthitaha vayuhu, svedarektayoho pittam sthitaha, shesheshu shleshma sthitaha. So that asthi, svedarekta and shesham, they are known as the ashraya, and vayu, pittam and kapham, kapha, shleshma, they are known as the ashrayi. So dushya or dhadu malas are known as the ashraya, and the doshas are known as the ashrayi. So as far as these ashraya and ashrayi are concerned, because of this relation, mithaha parasparam, yad ekasya vardhanakshapana tad anyasya api vardhanakshapana. Yad ekasya vardhanakshapana tad anyasya api vardhanakshapana. So when there is an intervention, here the word used is aushadham. Word used is aushadham. Let it be aharam. I think it is not going to make much a change. So it's a sort of intervention that is more important. In that intervention, yad ekasya tad anyasya vardhanakshapana aushadham. Yad, that intervention which ekasya vardhanakshapana aushadham, either ashrayasya vardhanakshapana aushadham, then the corresponding ashrayi will also experience the same vardhana or kshapana. Ashrayi also will have the same feeling. Or if there is something which will influence the ashrayi as either vardhana or kshapana, the same will be reflected in the case of ashraya as well. Yad egasya tad anyasya vardhana kshapana aushadham mithaha. So having said that, the author is keen to give you an exception in this regard. So immediately he presents Asthimarutayoho na evam. Asthimarutayoho na evam. In the case of Asti Maruta, Asti and Maruta. Asti is the Ashraya, Maruta is the Ashrayi. Na evam. It is not like this. It is not like this. That means Yadegasya Tadanyasya Vardhanakshapanaushadham. That rule is invalid. Asti Marutayoho na evam. Now he is trying to explain it. Prayaha vruddhirhi tarpanad. Prayaha vruddhirhi tarpanad. Shleshmananugata tasmad sankshaya tad viparyayad. Vayunanugataha asmad cha वृद्धिक्षय समुद्भवान् विकारान् साधयेत् शीघ्रं क्रमाद लंघन ब्रह्मणै. We will see what is explained. यदेगस्य तदन्यस्य वर्धनक्षपण औषधम् अस्ति मारुतयोर्नैवम्. So in the case of Asti and Maruta, this yadegasya tadanyasya vardhanakshapana aushadham rule is not working. Prayaha, in most of the situations, vruddhihi tarpanadhi. Vruddhi means vruddhi, increase. Prayaha vruddhihi tarpanad, sandarpanad. Sandarpanam is an act of accumulation. So vritti happens where there is accumulation. Prayo vrittirhi tarpanad. Shleshmananugata tasmad. Shleshmananugata. Santarpanam is Shleshmana anugata. Santarpanam is Shleshmana anugata. Anugata followed. Shleshmana anugata followed by Shleshma. So wherever there is tarpanam, generally prayaha tad Shleshmana anugata. That is anugata followed by Shleshma. Similarly, Sankshayaha tad viparyayad. Sankshayaha tad viparyayad. Tarpana viparyayad. Santarpana viparyayad means apatarpanad. Sankshaya happens when there is apatarpana. Tad viparyayad. Tarpana viparyayad. So it is not about accumulation but about disintegration. When the assets are disintegrated, there is kshayam. So sankshayaha tad viparyayad. And when there is disintegration, there is kshayam. When there is kshayam, there is avakasham. When there is avakasham, there is vadavritti. So any apatarpanam, vayuna anugataha. Vayuna anugataha. So that is one point which we have to keep in our minds when we are trying to understand the relation between Asti and Vayu. Asti and Vayu, here in general, the Ashraya Ashrayi components are having Samana Gunas. Samana Gunas. That is the reason for this Ashraya Ashrayi Bandha. But why then the Vayu is and the relation between Asti and Vayu is exempted from the Samanyam? Vayu is Vayu Agasha Bhuda predominant. Whereas any gross material is basically Prithvi Jala predominant. Prithvi Jala predominant and Vayu Akasha predominant are just exact opposites. So wherever Vayu increases, there will be a decrease in the bulk, in the stuff, in the content, in the Prithvi Jala Pradhanata. Instead, there will be a Vayu Akashiyata settling in. Inevitable. No alternative. That happens. That is the influence of the structural components. So when Vayu accumulates vritti, there will be apatarpanam, loss of that stuff. So there will be apatarpanam. But there is again a question. Why this is common to all dhadus? It is not specific to asti. Prayaha sanshayastad viparyayad and vayuna anugataha. Then why the relation between asti and vayu specified? Why it is not about vayu and mamsa? In mamsa dhadu, if the vayu increases, will not there be mamsa kshaya? Or in medas and vayu, when vayu increases, will not there be meda kshaya? Then why this asti and vayu are connected? As we mentioned earlier, this is all related to the samana gunada at some level. Asti as a dhadu is having gharatvam added to the snigdhata. All dhadus are snigdha basically. Snehasaro ayam purusha. So asti dhadu is blessed or marked by the presence of gharada, gharatvam, gharagunam along with the snigdhata, which makes that snigdhata a more compatible guna to deliver the function of dharana. In all other factors, vayu and asti are opposites. Only this gharada connects them. One single point wedding. Only single point wedding. All other factors are against. Their behaviors are opposites. But this particular point is the single point which keeps the wedding intact between asti and vayu. No other dhadu is having such a liability or such a commitment to accommodate vayu. This is also very important point clinically. They are not supposed to take the burden of accommodating ruksha vayu. So this point makes asti the ashraya of vayu. Then next statement what we find here in the text is asmad cha vruddhikshaya samudbhavan vigaran sadhayed shikhram. I hope the idea is clear what I explained so far. Vayuna anugadaha. Apadarpana is always Vayuna anugadaha. I already explained why it is so. Asmad cha vruddhikshaya samudbhavan vigaran sadhayed shighram kramad langhana brahmanaihi. So kramad respectively vruddhikshaya samudbhavan, vruddhi samudbhavan, kshaya samudbhavan cha vruddhikshaya samudbhavan vigaran rogan Shikhram sadhayed. Don't waste time. Do the exact or the required remedy in the vruddhikshaya samudbhava vikaras. Vriddhikshaya samudbhava vikara. Vriddhikshaya samudbhavam, dhatu vriddhikshaya samudbhava. How it happens? Because of the presence of dosha. So, Vriddhikshaya samudbhavan vigaran rogan Shikram sadhayed. How kramad langhana brahmanai. That means Vriddhik samudbhavan langhanad Kshaya samudbhavan brahmanad. Vriddhi samudbhavan langhanad Kshaya samudbhavan brahmanad. Sadhayed shikram. Shikram fast. Kramad langhana brahmanaihi shikram sadhayed. Here also this is an overgeneralization without considering the complex relation between Vayu and Asti. So immediately the author tries to give the Asti Vayu relation with a note of exception. Vayuranyatra. Vayoho anyatra. Vriddhikshaya samudbhavan. Vada vriddhikshaya samudbhavan. Earlier it is dhadu vriddhikshaya samudbhavan, dosha vriddhikshaya samudbhavan as well. Here vayoranyatra, except vayu. Tajjamstu, in the case of vada dosha, tajjamstu taire ulkramayojitaihi langhana brahmanaihi. Utkramam put in opposite order. Utkramam. So Utkramaihi langhana brahmanai means brahmanam and langhana. Langhana brahmanam means it will become brahmanam and langhana. So Tajjamstu vriddhikshaya samudbhavan. Vriddhikshaya samudbhavan. Vadasya vriddhi samudbhavan. Vadasya kshaya samudbhavan cha vikaran kramad tairevo ulkramayojitaihi. That means brahmana langhanaihi shikram sadhayed. When there is vada vriddhi, you resort, you go for brahmana, and when there is vada kshaya, you go for langhana. You go for langhana. So that is the point which is getting highlighted here. Vayoranyatra tajjamstu tairevol yojidai. So that actually is supposed to be a samanya chikilsa sutram. When the student, the shishya, is trained in developing some sort of an insight about how treatments are to be designed, how treatments are to be conceptualized in various conditions, actually these explanations are very, very valid. So in the initial phase itself, that is what we understand. Initial phases itself, as far as the study is concerned, a conceptual approach towards managing different sampraptis is introduced. Tajjamstu taireval krama yojitai. That is a samanya chikitsa. Kramad langhana brahmanan vikaran sadhayet shikram. That vriddhikshaya samudbhavan vigaran sadhayet shikram kramad langhana brahmanai vayoranyatra tajjamstu taireva ulkramayojitaihi. So that way it forms a samanya chikilsa sutram for all sorts of sampraptis. Now this samanya is one step, or the first step, to understand the Vishesha. So when Samanya is introduced and well explained, Then the next step is to explain the Vishesha. In this context of this Ashraya Ashrayi Bandha, we should think about some Vishesha Chikilsa in certain contexts. So accordingly, the next line, the next sloga goes like this. विशेषाद् रक्तवृद्धि उत्थान रक्तश्रुति विरेचनैः मांसवृद्धि भवान् रोगान् शस्त्रक्षार अग्निकर्मभिः स्थौल्यकार्ष्योपचारेण मेदोजान् अस्थिसंक्षयाद् जातान् क्षीरघृतैस्तिक्तसंयुतैर्वस्तिभिस्तथा विड्वृद्धिजान् अधीसारक्रियया विक्षयोद्भवन् मेषाजमध्य कुल्माषयवमाषद्वयादिभिः मूत्रवृद्धिक्षयोत्थांश्च मेहकृच्छ्रचिकित्सया व्यायाम अभ्यञ्जनस्वेदमद्यैः स्वेदक्षयोद्भवन्. So you may read this portion at least a couple of times so that things can be assimilated easily, and we will go to the explanations of these shlokas given here in our next session. So we will stop here. Thank you very much, and Shubharatri to all.
Yes, thank you, Prasad sir, again for such a wonderful explanation. I think there are no queries as of for today, and as you told that the next sutra is very important, and we should go through it and come with a come for an explanation in our next session. Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Prasad sir. Shubharatri.
Okay, bye. Shubharatri to all.